Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for willing to do this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I could just jump around then with your roles so far.
Sure.
I'm actually a fan of Guy, Double Target.
Really?
Yeah.
You're the first person I've seen or talked to who's actually seen that thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Very few have. I don't even think I have a copy of it before.
So for those who aren't familiar, what's the story of how you got involved with that?
That was the very first anime I ever did, first voice acting role I ever did. And at the time, I was doing stand-up comedy, and I was at a comedy club, and a girl I went to high school with was there with her then fiance, now husband. And afterward, they didn't know I was on the show. They were just there to see a show. And afterwards, she came and talked to me and said, "Hey, high school caught up." And he said, "Yeah, I'm starting a company that's going to bring Japanese anime to the U.S. and we're going to translate it into English. And you should come audition." And I said, "What's anime?" And he goes, "It's kind of like speed racing." So this is 25, 30 years ago. So, but then he said, "Yeah, come down and audition." So I did, and I got the role, and I've been doing voice acting in anime ever since.
Mm. How did you personally take to dubbing then?
Uh, Actually, it wasn't that difficult because I've done radio and stand up for a while, so I'm familiar with mic and mic work and mic technique. Um, so yeah, I took to it rather easily, um, and I just asked a couple of people who had done it previously, who had done some of that acting, and got a little tips from them. And I took to it like that pretty quick.
Mhm. I think around the same time would have been in Samurai Showdown.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, shortly after that, I think.
Yeah.
That was around, I think Guy the Double Target was 93, I think,
Hmm.
1994. So yeah, it probably would have been around the same time. Yeah.
And then another role that still has pretty big fan following too with Gunsmith Cats.
Yeah. That was the same company I worked with. And I don't remember exactly how that one came around. But yeah, it was around, it was probably that, was, yeah, I'd probably been doing it about 2 or 3 years by the time that one came around.
Hmm.
So it was a lot more easier. By then, it started to become fairly easy to do the anime work, the voice
Hmm.
work, and the acting.
Do you think that you have a preference for working on like comedic series opposed to darker or
Not really. I mean, I'll take anything. I like doing a lot of stuff. Most of my work I get is from controls that are like deep, big, big action fellas like this,
Mhm.
generals, tough guys, stuff like that. So anytime I get to break away from that and do something different, I enjoy it. But I'm good at comedy because I did stand up. I know how to do that. But I like doing all kinds of stuff. I like the dramatic stuff too. And
Mhm.
actually, it's all voice work. You don't have to see your face. The acting all comes from the voice. And so I think I can do dramatic work as a voice actor a lot better than I could if I was actually on film trying to be a dramatic actor. Because I don't think I'm very good at that. Yeah.
What do you think is the case with anime that you had to get the like darkest emotional headspace for a character?
Um, I don't think there's anything that's really dark. I mean, it's all acting. So I never really had to get into some weird space to do it. I mean, they just give me the. I'm not a method actor. They
Okay.
give me the words and say, "Hey, go out and do, you know, talk like a talk like a soldier." And I go out and talk like a soldier, or a general, or a hitman, or whatever. And so I don't really get into that. I don't have to embody the character. And most of the time, I don't have time. I don't even know what I'm going to do when I come in there.
Hmm.
I'll get a script 5 minutes later. I've got to start start acting.
Hmm. What about with Parasite? That's kind of unlike a lot of stuff that you've done.
Yeah, I was the father in that,
Hmm.
and I was a drunken father. Just so it was typecast. Yeah. Even though I'm not a father, I have had a drink before. But yeah, that was fun. And I didn't really have to do much out of my range. And so you just get to play Subway Drunk in the second half of that whole series. So that was
Mhm. And some more early things too that I remember seeing back then. Fire Emblem.
God, I don't even remember that one. There's a lot of people. They'll still be stuff from back then, from like 95, 96, 97. Some of the obscure titles, and they'll ask about that. And I'm like, I have the foggiest. I don't even remember doing that. I guess I did it. I'm on the credits and in my IMDb page, so I assume I did it. But yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, especially back then, we were knocking them out probably 3 times a week. We were knocking out stuff. And so I would play 7 or 8 roles in a week, and it all just kind of blurred into one, you know.
Mhm.
So it's hard to remember all the. But yeah, back then we were flying stuff.
Mhm. Well, you got to play a pretty iconic Street Fighter character, Guile.
Yeah, yeah. I get that's the one people will ask me about it. I'll say I have done this and that, and they'll look up my IMDb and they go, "You were Guile? What's that?" It's like, yeah, I was, and they're like, I used to watch it all the time. It's like, yeah, that's the one that people like. It's almost anime has its own sort of world and
Right.
fans, but something like Street Fighter crosses over, and so people, oh, you're like for real. You're not one of those just anime. Like you did stuff that's real. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I did. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Are you or did it take a while for you to become a fan of anything that you're in? Like, do you watch yourself or?
I don't really watch myself.
Okay.
One, two reasons. One, I hate the way I sound. So anytime I hear it, I'm shocked anybody still hires me. Yeah, okay. I guess I did it okay. And two, once you like people ask me, hey, did you watch that whole series you were in? And I say no, not because I don't enjoy it. I wouldn't enjoy it. It's just that I've been in the studio for 7 hours watching every little bit of it. So I've seen it all. Nothing's new. There's nothing uh, that I haven't already seen before. So I couldn't. I know my friends. There's people I know who work on it, and so I hear their voice, and that takes me out. And so you can't really get into it the way you could with somebody who comes to it as a fan.
Mhm.
So the short answer is no. I don't really watch the stuff I miss. Not that I wouldn't enjoy it. I mean, I have seen some of it uh, that I, but again, I just can't get into it because I hear myself that
Mhm.
this isn't real. This seems like something somebody would do in their house or whatever. Now. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, with the more like major characters that you played out, who do you think that you personally relate to the most?
Ooh, personally relate. I don't know that I relate to any of them. I mean, it's anime for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know, but I like all of them. I think there's a little bit of. I mean, if you're an actor, there's going to be some of you in everything you do. And so I don't know if relate is the best answer, the best word to use, but there's a little bit of. I try to see what goes on in each character, what I would do if that were me in that sort of situation, and how I would respond to it.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not taking out of the character, but just try to relate to it in some way. So I don't know that there's yeah, it's difficult to say because you do everything's different, but everything is a little bit of you in it, even though you have multiple characters with multiple accents and multiple storylines, whatever.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I'd like to think there's a little bit of somewhere, even in the most horrible, even in the serial killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think if you can pick like a single one, do you think the most fun you've had is still Ghost Stories?
Ghost Stories was fun. Yeah, in terms of anime, yeah, that is because that one was done unlike any other anime. Every anime you have is a locked-in script. So this one, Stephen Foster, who was the director, allowed us to. Oh, he didn't allow it, required actually, to be more improvisational and to come up with our own lines and our own jokes for the punchline. Uh, we had a skeleton of a script that was uh, very basic, just like you have to get to this point, this point, and this point. How you get there dialogue wise is your own path.
Mhm.
And so that's never done in anime at all. It's always a strict regimented script. So doing that was clearly the most different animes according to script.
Mhm. What about with Excel Saga?
Excel Saga was fun. That was where I played Pedro
Yep.
in Excel Saga, um, and I've had people say that that was a pretty decent like Hispanic accent, and I tell them no, it's not an Hispanic accent. It's an impression of a Greek waiter at a Greek restaurant that was down the street from me,
Oh,
and he talked like that. So it wasn't even Hispanic at all. Uh, it was just I always thought because he looked kind of like Pedro, this waiter did, and so I just kind of took his voice and the way he talked. And he was, oh, very so, very sad, very happy. So welcome in here. Call me like falafel, that sort of thing. So when you go back and listen to it, and you realize that it's more of a Greek accent, and then it is Hispanic, it makes more sense once you hear it.
mhm.
You know,
I know you got to meet the creator of Excel Saga too.
I did. I met him once at a convention 5 years ago, I guess, and he was the first person that I'd ever met that created an anime. And I got to meet him, and we talked for about 20 minutes through broken translations and broken English and broken Japanese. But it was interesting to meet him, and I had never met anybody who had actually made the things that I'm translating into English. So that
Mhm.
was kind of interesting. And to get his stuff, he had actually seen what I did, and he didn't really understand it so much. The language barrier was a little off, but he said he enjoyed what I had done, so that was nice.
Mhm.
He goes, it's completely. He goes, it was different from what he had tried to create in the Japanese, but he
Mhm.
appreciated it and he liked what I had done, so that was
Yeah. And more of a technical question. What do you think the cases where you've had to alter your voice the most significantly?
doing stuff that requires a higher end, that sort of thing. You know, like I played Igamuro in One Piece,
Yeah.
and he has a very high pitched voice, and he has a singing style. It's, oh, 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 and I had to do that. And speaking that wide red, you know, that kind of thing. I had to talk like that for 2 hours, and that's what skills it. I was done with that, and I said I never want to do this guy again.
Yeah.
And then they came back actually a few months ago. The company did and said, "Hey, Igaru's back for a few episodes," and I was like 8 years ago I did that. I thought, and they were like, "Yeah, there's 10,000 episodes of this thing, so it goes on forever. It's a perpetual motion machine." And so they brought me back, and I did it again, and it was the same thing. It was like killing my throat.
Mhm. I know you got to play Subaru and Food Wars for a while too now.
Yeah, that's fun. We just wrapped up Food Wars last year. I don't know if my guy comes back or if it comes back. I haven't heard yet. But yeah, that was fun. I got to, and I'm a chef, and so getting to play one on in anime is a nice treat.
Mhm.
So,
And early on too, like in your career, was there ever any aspiration to move to LA?
not really, because the work I was getting was in Houston,
Yeah.
and I was getting steady work, and then Dallas Funimation came along, so it's all here. Uh, yeah, I was getting plenty of work, so there wasn't really a need. And I had done some commercial work too. I was doing regional commercial work, regional voiceover stuff. So, and I have family here, and I was married at the time, and so no, didn't really want to go.
Mhm.
Can't go now; it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people, but who are you closest with in the VO community there?
hmm I have a lot. It's weird. You see people. I see people at conventions more than I do working, because
Mhm.
when we record, we're always recording by ourselves.
Right.
And we might be passing in the hall when somebody finished something, and and you spend 2 or 3 minutes with them. But I see people through the convention circuit, and I see them. That's when you get to hang out and talk and get to know some of the people in the industry a lot better than you do doing this.
Mhm.
This is a very solitary business.
Mhm.
Usually, when you're recording, it's you, a director, and an engineer, and so it's not. There's not a lot of meeting with other actors. In fact, I've worked with a girl whose name escapes me now, but I had met her at a convention. What's her name? Yeah. Anyway, she said we had been married 3 times in
Oh.
different anime, and we had never met. Because yeah, you were my husband in like 3 other different projects. I was like, oh, okay, well, nice to finally meet you.
Mhm.
And so it's fun to get together with those people.
Yeah, I did think it was really cool to see that photo of you and Tiffany Grant recording Guy together, like way back
Oh God. Oh
then.
man. That was a million years ago. Good God. That was a weird time. That was the very first one. And when we did that, we were actually all in a room together in a big studio. And this wasn't, like I just said, an individual thing. They had put us all in the studio and we kind of recorded it sort of like a old school radio play, with everybody sitting around with the scripts and the video playing. And it was very laborious and tedious. And we had to stop and start. And luckily, they never did that again. And they went back to just doing everyone individually. But yeah, that was I was recording that and I was like, I don't think this is the best way to do this. Because we had to stop and start every time because somebody was messing up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this was I don't know if you can remember much, but I think one of the first things that I like instilled your voice in my head was some of the Slayers movies.
Yeah. Oh man. That is way back then.
Yeah.
What's funny is I don't if you remember Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah.
That show. There was the old one, the sitcom one. There was a guy named Nick Mackay played the cat on that show, little black cat. And for years, still to this day, people think that either he did the cat in Ghost Stories or I did the voice in Sabrina. Because I would have people coming up and say, I loved you as the cat in Sabrina and in Ghost Stories. I was like, well, I did Ghost Stories, but that's not me. And they'd bring autographs of Salem, the cat, to that. And he get his autograph at the autograph. Like, yeah, sure, I'll sign. I signed it, Nick Mackay. Yeah, there you go. Congratulations. Yeah, even though I never had anything to do with that.
Oh.
Still to this day, I get people all the time. Yeah.
I know. You've actually, because I'm outside of Minneapolis. Have you been up here for conventions a few times?
Yeah. I'm supposed to be coming back up there in a few months. I'm not sure when. I know I'm on the books, I think.
Oh, in May.
Yeah. Yes. May. Yeah. I'll be up there then. Which is good because, I mean, when you look at this industry, the way it's going, the technology that's driving it is putting all of us voice actors out of work. I tell all my voice actor friends at the convention, they said, we got maybe 2 years left before they don't even need us anymore. Because the way the technology is now, you can take, 10 or 20 words of dialogue from anyone and create an artificial AI voice print of it, and they can act in anything. I mean, you go look at what happened with Mark Hamill in the Book of Boba Fett, the episode he was in. He didn't record a single line of dialogue for that.
Mm-hmm.
They just took audio samples and pasted them together and created this whole character. He was never even in a sound booth.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell everybody, look, you better start getting it now because the technology's catching up, but they're not going to need us before too long.
Mm-hmm. Do you still, because I know a lot of people that I've talked to in the past couple of years, they do all remote recording now. Do you still go in?
It depends. I have a friend who has a studio down the street from me.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll go in, if it's like Funimation stuff, I used to have to drive to Dallas every time. Now it's all remote. I do it from his studio and we zoom in, much like this, and we'll record it and shoot it up to him digitally. But all the stuff I do for Sid Tottenham, I do that in studio. Yeah, I don't go through it. They have their own studio set up. I go through it.
Mhm.
Very convenient.
This is another character that kind of bigger character that again is more nuanced than a lot of roles that you had. Do you remember being in Peacemaker?
Peacemaker? Which one? Yeah. God, vaguely. Yeah, that was some time ago though.
Yeah.
Yeah, vaguely. Who was I in that? I don't remember.
Saito.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I vaguely remember that
Okay.
one. It's yeah, I don't like I said, we do so many. It sort of blends together. Yeah, but I do vaguely remember that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is more relatively recent. It's a fun character in Needless. He has big spikes on his shoulders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just gotta say that. I don't remember names.
Okay.
I remember the characters. That's what they tell me because they'll send you especially in the olden days, the old times, they would send you a full script, right? And they'd highlight who you're supposed to be, and they would send you a little printout of what the character looks like.
Mhm.
And I never even memorized any of the names. I just remembered okay, that's the blue guy. That's the guy with the spikes on his head. Yeah. Because there's too many, and especially Japanese names, which I am horrible with. So I just remember character attributes. Because they never change costumes anyway. So it's the same.
Mhm. I know another one I watched early on was Blue Seed. You had a major part in that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That was the early days, the A Division and all that. We did, how many episodes was that? There was a bunch. I did that. That was the one I did a lot.
Yep.
I remember having a lot of fun on that. That was one of the first, like, I mean, I had a major role in Guy the Double Target. I was the lead in that.
Mm-hmm.
But around Blue Seed time was when I first started getting some bigger parts. And because after Guy the Double Target, they would bring me in and have me play these little small things. But after about a couple years, I started getting into the bigger roles. And I do remember that was one of them.
Mm-hmm. I know Area 88 was kind of big too.
Yeah. Those are not again going back to the time when man, I was probably hungover half the time I recorded that. My knowledge of those roles is limited at best.
What about it's another like pretty wild one with a Panty Pony Dash.
Yeah, that's the one where I'm the panties, right?
You're an alien.
You what?
You're an alien.
An alien. Okay. There's one that sounds like that, and I played a pair of panties.
That's pretty poemy.
Yeah, I knew it sounded something like that.
Yeah.
that was some of my finest acting work, playing the panties. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
That was a revelation.
Mm-hmm.
That one I remember, the panties one, because I came in. God, the director escaped. Anyway, names are horrible for me today. I apologize, but I remember coming in and said, "Okay, if you're going to have any reservations about ever doing anime, this is what you will have reservations for." I said, "What is it?" You got to get playing a pair of panties of a teenage girl. I was like, "Okay, well, I'm probably going to be on a watch list, I guess, after this, but yeah, sure, let's go." Still paid.
Is there a story, much of a story with a Super Milkchan too?
Super Milkchan was fun. That was directed by Stephen Foster, and Stephen Foster is a very good friend of mine, and he's a very big gay man, big as in boisterous, big personality. And he brought me in, and he said, "All right, for this one, you're going to be a big blue alien, but I want him to be gay. I want him to be super gay. I want him to be big and loud." And I said, "So you want me to sound like this?" He goes, "Yeah, sound like that." I said, "I'm just doing an impersonation of you, right?" He goes, "I don't sound like that. That's not what I sound like." I went, "Yeah, pretty much you do." And the engineer was there. He goes, "Yeah, pretty much." He's like, "You could have saved a lot of money just doing this yourself. Because I'm just doing an impersonation of you." So, yeah, that was how that came about.
Okay. And then what's the one? I think it's called Wizard Barristers. Yeah, where you get to play like the big green frog.
Oh man, I don't even remember that one. I do remember the frog. I do remember that, but I don't remember anything about that.
Okay.
I remember, yeah, I do remember recording that. That was God. That had to have been 15 years ago, maybe 10
Hmm.
years ago. Yeah. God, wow. Yeah, I've done over 300, so they all kind of blur, you know.
Let's just go another pretty dark character, Zenku and Akamega Kill.
Yeah. That was I love that one. When you say when you ask about darker characters and stuff, and I liked doing that one because most of the death scenes you just get stabbed, and that's it, you know. Like I mean, I did some stuff in Halo for the video game,
Hmm.
or yeah, and I died like 20 times. That's all I did. I had no dialogue. I just died 20 times. Beat, stab, punch, whatever. But for that one, I got to have a nice, long, drawn out death scene. That was some of my finest work. And I thought if I'll ever be nominated for anything, that was what I'll be nominated for. And I didn't. But I'm very still hurt by it. But that one was, I really enjoyed doing that one because it was a character that's kind of almost in the style of the Joker a little bit. But it was still, it had its own little flavor that I really enjoyed playing.
Has there been a case outside of One Piece where a character was like pretty vocally stressful, or is that the main instance?
Um, that one was the worst. I'll tell you that. But there's also, yeah, anytime like they'll have you, say you're a character and you do a lot of screaming for it's very loud or whatever, but you spend an hour, 2 hours in the booth screaming, and it becomes very taxing on you. And those are the ones I don't like. There's stuff called Walla, which is
Yeah.
the background vocals, and a lot of Walla is screaming. And I spent untold hours in a studio being doing Walla, and it just rips the voice to shreds.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what it dislikes the most. But just as a character, that one he was probably the most difficult on the throat.
Hmm. Another more serious series, Red Garden.
Mm. Yeah, don't remember that one. No memory on that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
What about with Sukeban Deka?
yeah, don't remember that one either.
Okay.
That's a blank one.
Okay.
Yeah, who was I in that? But
Um,
that sounds familiar.
Gozo.
Yeah. Oh yes, I do remember. Yeah, vaguely,
Okay.
but nothing that's memorable. Nothing that stands out. I do remember that one. Yeah.
I know it's pretty rare in anime too, but have you gotten to perform with yourself, like against yourself ever?
Um. Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, I have played the same person like I forget which one it was, but it was a different time period,
Mm.
and so it's like the person goes back to see themselves in time. Um, since I played both roles,
Okay.
but but they didn't actually get to. They were just observing. It's sort of like a Ghost of Christmas Past kind of thing.
Mm.
So I didn't actually perform with myself. But that's about as close as I come. That would be fun. One of the challenges, especially back then when they were, some companies try to do whatever they can to save money.
Mm.
So they have you play multiple roles instead of hiring different actors. And so the hope is that's actually the exact opposite of what you just asked. The hope is that your characters aren't in a scene together because the vocal structure is such the same that you can tell it's the same person playing two different characters.
Mm.
And so that's the challenge. And luckily, I have been gifted with sort of an ability to manipulate my voice and give it some range. But there's only so much you can do. You can't make it sound like two different people.
Mm.
And so doing multiple characters in a project can become a challenge because you have to differentiate them so much from one another. So
Mm.
that becomes a challenge. Yeah.
Do you have much affinity with Matsushita and Angel Beats?
Uh, No, I do remember that one, but nothing spectacular leads to mind.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What about with Broken Blade? That's a pretty cool character.
Mm, yeah, I do remember that. I don't. Yeah, nothing spectacular comes to mind. I do remember doing it though. I did. I swear, I looked at one of them. Somebody pulled up my IMDb and was and I looked at it and I'm like, I did not have any memory of doing like a third of them. I had no idea. Yeah, mostly because it's so long ago, and then you do so many, they start to run into one another.
Mm-hmm. But what are some of the most like recent series that you can talk about that you're part of then?
Well, I just did Food Wars,
Yeah.
and I don't have anything on the book until May, I think. I'm doing some more stuff for two different series uh, that I don't know the names of. I just know I've been hired for, and so I'll be doing those in May.
Okay.
Hopefully, I think one of them is a Cartoon Network. I think it is, but don't quote me. And I don't know the title either. They don't tell me. They don't tell you anything.
Mm-hmm.
They keep you in the dark as anyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I go in there, I'm signing another NDA or some sort of contract that don't talk about this, don't talk about that, don't take pictures inside. I got in real trouble for taking pictures in the booth one time and taking selfies, and I accidentally caught a clip of whatever it is I was doing,
Oh.
and it got leaked. Like, oh, they're making this now, and so I got chastised for that. So I can't take pictures in the booth anymore. I'm a bad boy.
Well, I know outside of Food Wars, playing more Latro and is around to pick up girls in a dungeon. That's one of the more recent ones.
Yeah, that one was. I every time that title comes out, actually, my mom saw from my IMDb. She was telling her friends. She said, "Oh, this is what my son does," and they're all in their 70s and 80s, and that title popped up. How to pick up with the girls in a dungeon, and they're like, "What is that? What is that they're doing?" I'm like, I don't know. It's what he does. He does the voices. So yeah, they're very proud of that one.
Yeah. Well, my final question then is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, I don't know. Well, I hope that people enjoy what I do. I hope they find some entertainment in it. I like to think that I was good at what I did. Like I said, when I hear myself, uh, I can't stand listening to my voice. So the fact that people enjoy it makes me happy, makes me proud. And I hope that people just continue watching anime, continue to enjoy it. This is a burgeoning. I've been in this business since 92, 93, and the, every 4 or 5 years, I'll talk to people and we'll say the same thing. Well, this is it. This is it. We had a good run. No more anime is a dead art form or whatever. And 5 years later, it's getting bigger. And then we'll say, okay, well, that was a good run. Maybe, I guess we're done now. And then 5 years later, it's bigger than ever. And now it's reached a point now where it's as big as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's all these corporate, for lack of a better term, big studios getting involved, Sony and whatnot, buying up all this IP that it really is just going to go much bigger and larger. And I hope people continue to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's especially cool for me because of so many of the titles I mentioned, that just seeing your name like on the back of VHS boxes back when I was younger and like talking to you now. So
yeah. Yeah, I still had the VHS, the guy, the double target.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I know the last time I saw it was probably 6 or 7 years ago when I moved, and I'm sure it was lost. It's lost somewhere into the universe. But yeah, I used to have all the DVDs. That's the thing. That's the bad thing about streaming, is that when you go to the convention, the streaming's not going to have. You won't have anything to sign for people. They can't sign the DVDs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only bad thing about streaming. But we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's getting the access to anime now is incredible. But Crunchyroll and all the different, streaming services that have some sort of foot in anime, it's everywhere nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And it's becoming more and more. And now, when I said I've never heard of anime, now people who aren't even anime fans, it's still in the zeitgeist, sort of still it has a resonance that people know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
When even for non-anime fans, when you say, "Oh, you do anime," I've heard of that. You know, when I started, no one had ever heard of it. You know, there were 6 guys in a high school that watched it, and so yeah, the growth of it, the exponential growth has just been really impressive to see, and the amount of talent, the new voices that are coming out, and all kinds of different stuff that anime is doing. Hopefully, it'll just grow and improve.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm glad my iPod they stayed alive long enough.
No problem.
Yeah, well, have a good day. All right.
Yeah, you too.
I'll see you in Minnesota maybe next
Yeah.
May. All right. Come
Okay.
say hi.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.